this whole presentation here, looking at my timing here, is all about selling bigger deals, cashing bigger checks. Now, I wrote the word checks in the American spelling for our American cousins, but in Australia and in the United Kingdom, we spell checks with a Q and a U and an E. We have strange spelling in our language, I know. We do have to learn how to speak American when we go to your part of the world, but I just thought I'd use the American vernacular, considering just to make our American cousins a lot more comfortable here. So anyway, thank you for showing up to this event. I know I was being a bit silly there. That's just my quirky Australian humor, but let's get into rocking and rolling, right? So I just want to show you what happens when people get big deals. We had Tina here. She just closed a 15K strategy session. Kristen, $8,000 setup, $6,000 per month for a client. Tim, 150 grand client. Eben, 10K immediate sales. David, 5 to 2,500. Dennis, an 80K and a 25K client. Tracy, 5,500 a month. This is what happens when you do these strategies, right? So what happens? These are the deals that are out there. Tim, 150K client. We had David here, $10,000 setup fee, $5,000 a month, $6,000 a month ad spend on top of that. We have Patrick closed a $117,000 deal, and he started, the first conversation was on the 20th of April. 20th of April when he started the conversation, and by the 20th of May, he closed that $117,000 deal, and that was for ads management, okay? So let's get into it. What does a big deal look like to you? I'd love to ask this question of you. In your opinion, what's a big deal to you? Just type in the chat what a big deal to you is. Just type in the chat. No, this is not the same daily call that you get as a member of the Agency Unleashed. You get a very different call, Mark. This is not the same call. No. You are in a very different group of people. So Yamil says 5K a month is a big deal. A big deal for Michael is $20,000 a month. What is a big deal to you? What do you believe? I'd just like you to chat. It doesn't matter what that number is, but what do you believe a big deal for you is right now, right? A big deal would be a 12-month agreement. Yep, that would be a big deal, Trevor. That's awesome. A big deal for Chris is a 20 to 25K per month deal or a commitment from a client. Yep. For Monique, a $100,000 customer, one client for 100 grand, either 10 grand a month or 100 grand up front would be a big deal. Pay in advance for 12 months, Yamil, yes, that would be a big deal for a lot of people. $15,000 a month for Michael Apia would be a big deal, yeah. That would be $180,000 a year for that client, which would be pretty cool. What else? Just type in the questions. What's a big deal for you guys, yeah? Because at the end of the day, if this is what you believe a big deal is for you, then you must have in your head how you're going to deliver a solution that is valued at that big deal price. Eric says $10,000 a month management fees. Yep, absolutely. Now, the other thing you also need to take into consideration with big deals is a big deal might be somebody paying you for a project, not necessarily monthly recurring, because a lot of big companies are not going to go into a monthly recurring deal with you. They're just going to say, what is the deal worth? And they're going to go, great, let's cut you a check for the whole thing. Right? Or they might say, hey, let's just pay for the thing in 3 installments, right? And you get all the money up front. A lot of the deals that I've been helping with a lot of champions that we work with is we actually get them to pay all the money up front, right? Deposit a check of $100,000 cash in the bank. Deposit a check of $117,000 cash in the bank, right? So these are the sorts of things that we talk about when it comes to the bigger types of deals in the market. So let's get into a little bit about an understanding of the big deals, right? So bigger clients, bigger budgets, right? Companies at that $5 million mark, right, will have a budget for marketing between $250,000 and up to $500,000. That includes employing marketing team. So look at maybe 20%, 20 to 30% of this figure will be the money that will probably be allocated directly to marketing in and of itself, right? So a 250 grand client is going to probably spend about $70,000 of that 250K is going to go directly to some form of direct advertising or marketing. $500,000, you're probably looking at about 100 to 150K of that is going to go towards a direct form of marketing. So a portion of this budget is going to go to people like you, right? So if you need somebody to pay you 5, 10 grand a month, you've got to deal with companies at that $5 million plus mark, right? That's at the low end, right? Companies at that $2 million mark $1 million mark, $100 million are never going to pay you $5 to $10,000 a month because they can't afford to, right? Because at $1 million, if they're going to pay you 50 grand or 60 grand, that means they're going to give their entire marketing budget just to you. And that's just not going to happen in a lot of cases. It does happen on the short term, but in the long term, it doesn't work out, right? So you got to think about who am I targeting, who can afford to pay me this money of the big deal, right? So $20 million companies will have up to $1 million plus on marketing, 20 to 30%, so $200,000 to $300,000. $20,000 to $30,000 a month or more is going to be dedicated towards advertising and promotion. $20 million companies tend to spend up to $100,000 a month in direct, can spend up to 100 grand a month in direct types of promotion and marketing. So the $1 million margin is $1 million plus that they dedicate to marketing. So more like at that 20 million mark, you're probably closer to 1.5 to 2 million as a budget, right? At the $100 million mark, the $5 million would be dedicated to marketing. About $2 million of that would probably go to some form of sponsorship, trade show, advertising, major brand or brand awareness type advertising, billboards, banner ads, all that sort of stuff. They would have much bigger budgets. The $100 million companies and up have much bigger budgets to spend with you. So this gives you an idea of roughly what it costs or where the market is, right? If you want people to spend 20 grand a month, then you've got to target companies that are at that 10 to $20 million mark. You want companies to spend you 10 grand a month, you're looking at companies in that $5 million to $20 million category that don't have a problem writing a check for $100,000, right? That's the thing that you've got to be mindful of in this process, yeah? Any questions that you've got about this, just type in the chat and I'll answer the question. Any questions about what I've just shared? Targeting bigger companies, you need to target companies that have bigger budgets to be able to afford. And those bigger budgets means that with your current pricing, you might be too cheap for them. That's the other side. That's the poison arrow in this idea. If you're charging people $1,500 a month, $3 grand a month, $5 grand a month for your services, and you're dealing with a $20 million company and they look at you and go, that's like 60 grand a year. That's like one event for us. How are you going to give us all this money and make all this thing happen for us for 60 grand? So all of a sudden there's a believability factor that you're too cheap in the market. I'd love to know, has anybody had a situation where you've presented an offer to a client and you were scared, you thought they were going to knock you back on price. They said, yep, no, bro, this is fantastic, easy, let's do it, right? They quickly made a decision on the spot and said, yep, we're in. Who's had that experience? Anybody have that experience? Because in that experience, you may have realized that they said yes too quickly. It means you could have charged more for your service. So you gave them enormous value at a cheaper price when they actually would have paid more. They saw that as, wow, that's a great deal. I jump in. Anybody experienced that here when you've made an offer or made a sale to a customer? They've gone, yep, that's huge. That's a great deal. I'm going to take that, right? Monique says, no, I've never experienced that. Yeah, my last client. So the last client you did an offer to said yes too quickly and too easily. So to me, that shows you that they actually would be willing to spend more. They probably might have spent maybe 20 or 30% more. And even then, they probably might have jumped in and gone, hey, this is a great value deal. Oftentimes I find in terms of the pricing sensitivity, we have more sensitivity to the price than the customer does. We're scared to deliver the price. And if you're scared to deliver the price, then you are scared to deliver the service. And if you're scared to deliver the service, the customer is going to pick up on that and go, I can't deal with you. You're a scaredy cat, right? You're too tentative, right? Any indication you give the client that you are tentative about what you're offering, you will kill the deal, right? You have to buy what you sell first. I often say to people, people say to me, yeah, John, I want to do $200,000 deals. Great. Show me the offer you got for 200 grand right now. Well, what do you do for 200 grand? How much, show me how you make a company $2 million out of $200,000. Show me the strategy. Can you show me the strategy? And they go, no. So, well, how can you offer a high ticket deal if, how can the company buy your high ticket deal if you can't offer and articulate what that high ticket deal is? Right? It's not just a matter about the price. It's about that problem that you solve and how big that problem is to the company. And the bigger the problem and the more the problem costs, the bigger the money they will actually pay to solve the problem, right? I'll give you a perfect example of this as we go through to show you how people actually spend up rather than spend down, right? So understand that, that nobody can buy your big offer if you don't make a big offer. right? If you don't have a presentation and a plan and a solution where the client actually is going to pay you those big dollars, then how on earth is it possible for you to get a big client? It would be impossible to do that, because if you don't offer it, they can't buy it. And if you don't own that price first, they can't buy it. So you will be stuck at your level of price thinking. You're not stuck at the client's level of price thinking. You're stuck at your level of price thinking. And the reason why people have the problem with price is they're learning. They're just, you're just getting out of the gate. You're learning. That deal with Patrick, that $117,000 deal, that was the biggest deal he's ever made. His average client was $1,500 a month. So he went from a $1,500 a month client to a $30,000 a month client for a 90-day period, or more than that, $35,000 a month client over a 90-day period, right? So from $1,500 a month to 30 grand a month, that's a big leap in the head, right? That's a huge leap to accept. But now, guess what? Patrick knows how to do a $100,000 deal because he's done one. Now he can get, now his eyes are going to be open to the other opportunities at that level. And so he's going to introduce more and more clients to his business. Tracy, Simon, all these guys, our champions that are signing bigger deals, right? Their eyes are open to the bigger deals because they closed the bigger deal. 3 months ago, they weren't charging more than $1,500 a month for ad management. Today, they're talking to clients about charging 20 grand a month for the same thing, right? 20 grand a month. From 1,500 to 20 grand a month in less than 3 months per client. In fact, yesterday they put their prices up, right? Because they realize that they're slammed. So to accept new clients, if you want to work with them, then you've got to pay more because they know they're getting amazing results for their clients, right? So the mindset is a big part of this whole budget thing that people have. If you want to make big sales, start charging bigger prices for what you have to offer and start owning that price. You have to own the price, not the client. The client doesn't need to own the price. You have to own the price, yeah? So somebody did a question in the Q&A. Nobody. So, oh, yeah, okay, so that was in the chat. All right, so getting away from the chats here. So let's look at things. Sales cycle on bigger deals. So it's sort of, there is some more time, not necessarily difficulty, but there is some more time involved. The more money that people spend with you or invest with you, the more time they need to have their questions answered so they know that they're making the right decision. So just to give you a perspective, if you're selling something for 1,000 to 12K, the decision-making cycle on 1,000 to 12K, 1 to 3 days, pretty simple. In fact, a lot of people could do an on-the-spot deal with a 12K deal. $1,000 a month, they can literally make that decision on one phone call. Not $1,000 is a no-brainer because they're sitting there saying, well, $1,000, that's a car payment, right? That's no big deal. They're willing to spend that kind of money. So 1,000 to 12,000, pretty easy sale, 1 to 3 days in a sales cycle, right? 25K to 35K could be 3 days, or it could be 1 day, but it could be 3 days to 10 days, 3 days to 10 days. Find out some more information, do a little bit more discovery, provide a more relevant presentation and a pitch, take them through the sales cycle from the time you present, have those initial conversations to the time you present the offer, could be anywhere between 3 to 10 days, 3 to 10 days, right? Is roughly for a 25K to a 35K investment. So 50K to 100K, 2 to 6 weeks, 2 to 6 weeks. The deal with Patrick took 4 weeks. From the 20th of April to the 20th of May to get a $117,000 deal, check cash over the line, 4 weeks. Simon, the big deal I talked about with Simon, he took 6 weeks to close that deal. From the time the conversation started to the time he got the written agreement and the deposit in the bank account, it took 6 weeks. If I look at Cam, who signed the $100,000 deal, who got the 100 grand deal in his bank account, it took roughly 4 to 6 weeks to get that deal over the line. It's going to take you, because when somebody pays you $100,000 or is agreeing to give you $100,000, they have to make sure that they're doing their due diligence to pay you that money, right? They're not just going to decide on a whim to pay that money to you. They're going to need some indoctrination. They're going to need some information. They're going to need some know, like, and trust, because somebody's going to hand you 100 grand. Anybody that tells you that you're just going to hop on the phone and ask somebody $100,000, they're just going to buy it off you, that's just BS. That's the biggest BS I've ever heard. Anybody that sells that, run a mile, because that's not true. It's never my understanding in my case, and I've never seen anybody sign a $100,000 deal, right, in one phone call without having any relationship. It just doesn't happen. That's a myth, right? It might have happened once, or there might be an exception somewhere in the world, in the rule, where that may have happened, but the likelihood of that happening for anybody here, highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. So it takes time, right? Questions need to be answered. I's need to be dotted. T's need to be crossed. Agreements need to be made. The negotiation between Patrick and his client was all about the agreement. It had nothing to do with the price. They were happy with the price. They were just debating on the items in their agreement, in their contract with each other, right? So can we put this clause in? Can we take that clause out? That was the deal. But Patrick stood strong and said, this is the deal. This is our standard agreement with everybody, and you're everybody. And so they ended up getting the deal, right? If you're going to ask questions, ask them over into the chat. So an anonymous attendee, somebody who's an anonymous attendee, hi anonymous, how you doing? How do you feel about selling a product that you don't personally know how to fulfill? The stress of having the white label and becoming a charlatan is what's holding me back. Well, anonymous, if you believe that you're a charlatan and your white label provider is a charlatan, then you are a charlatan. That's just plain and simple. But if you have a white label provider, like some of the people that we work with in our resource partners, some of our resource partners are managing $2.5 to $3 million a month in ad spend. Now, charlatans who are getting $2 to $3 million in ad spend and managing hundreds of accounts, well, they're not charlatans, right? The only person that can make you feel like a charlatan is you. If you're using a resource partner, by the way, some of the biggest agencies, whoever Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous is, some of the biggest agencies in the world outsource their AdWords campaigns and Facebook campaigns to India. And they're charging their clients millions of dollars for their services, right? So outsourcing for results, there's nothing wrong with that. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not being a charlatan. You're actually fulfilling a service because you're hiring a team that is highly skilled, highly relevant, and has already got the experience to be able to get the result. So if you are feeling like a charlatan, you're feeling like a charlatan because you are making that decision, right? If you're helping a client and they're getting a result, the fact that you're using resource partner is irrelevant. You know, the idea is get the client happy, get the client results. Work with a good resource partner. Don't work with an independent contractor who's going to leave you in the middle of an account or is going to kill an account for you, right? Work with people with reputation. Work with people who've got skills. Work with people who've got case studies. That way, you'll never be a charlatan. You'll be delivering an exceptional service to your team. So thanks for asking the question. I really appreciate that. If you can ask your questions in the chat, that would be really cool. So $100,000, $250,000, 2 to 6 months on the deal, 2 to 6 months on the deal for 100K to 250K. Yeah. Maybe more, right? Maybe more, right? But the last one, 500K, 6 plus to 12 months, right? I'm in the middle of negotiating a $1 million opportunity, right? It's probably going to take me, this particular opportunity is probably going to take me about, it's coming up close to 12 months. Coming up close to 12 months on this deal. Lots of I's, lots of T's to be crossed for somebody to hand over a check for $1 million. Now, that's not the biggest sale I've ever made. I've made a lot bigger than that. The longest sale took me, the biggest sale I ever made took me close to 2 years, right? Nearly 2 years on the big sale. And the big sale was mega millions of dollars. 2 years to work on a deal. And I literally almost lost the deal in the last moment because I was stupid. But that's a whole other story. I won't tell you about that. However, bigger deals, right? Much bigger deals, especially big money when they're making considerations on budgets. So think about it. A company is going to pay you $500,000 to $1 million for your services. They have to move some money around. We have a champion that sold a website to a company for $1 million. It took them 6 months to close that deal. Now, you can build a hell of a website for $1 million, right? You know, Domino's Pizza paid millions of dollars for that, millions and millions of dollars for their app, for their delivery app. And they've had to redo that app 3 times in the last 2 years, right? That app is responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars worth of pizza sales. So that app is not a $5 app or a $100 app or a $2,000 app. It's a multi-million-dollar app, right? BMW spent tens of millions of dollars on their website because you can build any model of their car and have 150 different variations of versions, and they will deliver the car to your door within 3 months exactly how you want it. So the website that can actually take you through that purchasing process or through that selection process is huge. It's huge. You can build your own BMW, colors, seats, trimmings, linings, all that sort of stuff. There's over 150 selections on every car. Now there's more than 30 or 40 cars in the range, right? Or in the ranges. So now multiply that by 150 things you can do on 30, 40 cars. It's thousands of options, right? You're not going to build a website for like that for 100 grand. That website's going to cost you millions of dollars, right? So understand, the bigger the money, the longer the sales cycle, right? The bigger the commitment, right? The bigger the relationship, the longer the sales cycle, right? So any questions about this? Love to hear questions. Somebody's gone in the chat. So let's answer the chat. Florida paid $77 million for their unemployment website. Isn't that interesting? It's still plagued with problems. Yeah. Isn't that interesting that a state, a government body paid $77 million for a website? Can you believe it, right? So Mark Bennett says, my one call close. Well, it's not my one call close. It's just doing a one call close. Is it fair to assume it only applies to the first two categories? Yeah, I've done one call closes for 50K. But yeah, in most cases, you're looking at the lower ticket, at the lower item, because it's easier for a person to go, I see the benefit, I see the result, right? Generally, at the 50K plus mark, you're probably looking at 3 to 4 calls. 3 to 4 calls in that process. Yeah. Don, the government gets value from its purchases. Those government websites are usually so bad they never work. Yeah. Many of these companies have marketing budgets they need to spend by year's end. They'll invest in new things, ideas, and people. Yes, absolutely, Trevor. Thank you for bringing that up and highlighting that. A lot of these companies allocate certain budgets every year to spend on marketing. If they don't spend all that budget by the end of the year, in the following year, their budgets get reassessed and realigned. So sometimes coming close to the end of the year is when a lot of people spend a lot of money on marketing because they don't want to lose their budgets, right? Because if you don't spend up your budget and you've got a surplus, that money is going to be allocated to somebody else and you're going to get a lesser budget for marketing next year. So a lot of people, thank you for bringing that up, Trevor, from a cycle point of view, or purchasing cycle point of view, yes, there are companies that need to spend their budgets and allocations. So moving right along, just looking at the time here, we're cool. Okay, so if you go in through a small door, right, you'll be stuck in a small room. And that's where a lot of people get caught. They are walking into the small player in the market, and that's how they are. They act small, they are small, and they only talk to small. And if you do that, then you're only going to work with small. Now, by the way, I just want to put a caveat on this. There is nothing wrong with building. I know many, many people who've built multi-7-figure agencies off the small market. But the way they've been able to make that profitable is that they have to productize their service. They can't custom and make money at the small end of the market. You just can't do it. It's impossible. For you to be profitable in your agency, an average client has to be investing at least $25,000, and I would say more. I would say $30,000 to $35,000 a year. For you to be profitable, so for you to make really good profit margins in your business, the average client should be investing about $30,000 to $35,000 a year. That should be your lowest client purchase, right? 30 to 35 grand a year, you're actually going to make some really good money out of that client. All right, 30 to 35 grand for one project, you're going to make good money for the client. That's not to say, and a lot of people, like, well, that means if I sell it for less and I'm not making money. You can make money at the lower market, lower margin, lower market, but you need volume and you need to really make sure that you're working with margins so you know your profit margins, because otherwise you've got this thing called cost of acquisition. Your cost of acquisition might actually put you out of business. It may cost you more to get a client than it is to the money that you make from a client. That's a dangerous place to be in business, right? I know lots of companies. In fact, when we started out in the health niche market, we were working with physical therapy practices that were too small. And so we were charging them $3, $4, $5 grand a month, and we were getting them 40, 50 patient opportunities every single month, but they couldn't handle the patients. They were too small. So their marketing was so successful that it was almost forcing them out of business, right? So this made us change and pivot to much bigger operations who could actually handle the growth. We couldn't work with small people. We had to work with people who had 500 to 600 visits a month. Those are the types of practices that we worked with. So we don't target practices that do less than 500 patient visits per month, because we know that when we put our marketing into those practices, we see a 30 to 50% growth rate in their business. But if we go too small, then we put strain and stress on the business, right? So sometimes, that's not to say, just to give you perspective, you want to play small and you want to be small and you want to make small money, then there's nothing wrong with the volume at the small level. What you need to be mindful of is your margins, the profit that you make between what it costs you to deliver and what you make, and how much effort and energy you put into delivering. I know people who've completely systemized their entire operations, and because of those systems, that makes them far more profitable at the lower end of the market, right? But to do that, that's going to take you a long time to get that happening, right? That's going to take some time to put those things into place, right, to make that work. It also takes volume. You have to work with lots of clients. You're going to have lots of, and by the way, lots of little clients are going to leave you as well, because their expectations are super high, right? But they're not willing to follow through on the result. So if you go through a small door, you're going to be stuck in small rooms. You need to walk through bigger doors, right? So solve small problems, you'll be treated like a vendor, just like everybody else. If you solve small problems, you'll be treated like a vendor, like everybody else in the marketplace, right? So somebody just asked me a question. Let's respond to that. We've got a couple of chats. So true about the smaller clients. They are more high maintenance. Yes. Churn in business. A lot of small clients tend to churn because of the fact that they can't afford it, right? And think about what's going on right now in the world. There's a lot of companies under a lot of financial stress, right? So one of the things that some of my champions are doing is they're finding money for their clients so they can invest in their marketing. In fact, here in Australia, the Australian government has just given away, I think it was $20,000 towards marketing. They gave away a grant fund for $20,000, and that fund was swallowed up within 3 days. So hundreds of companies around the country just got a $20,000 bump to go and spend money on advertising and marketing. And they had to actually put in a plan of what they were going to spend money on. Facebook ads, AdWords, that sort of stuff. And then, so one of my champions is helping customers get access to that funding, to those grants, so they can invest in their marketing, right? Which is pretty cool, right? So things to consider out. Systems rule the day, absolutely, right? So solve small problems, you'll be treated like a vendor just like everybody else. If you solve small problems, you'll be treated like a vendor like everybody else in the marketplace, right? So you don't want to be solving small problems, you want to solve bigger problems, right, in the market. And maybe the problems you're solving may seem small right now, but the impact of the problem solving that you do has a much larger impact. So it actually has a bigger opportunity than where you're pricing or where you're positioning what you do in the marketplace. So you always end up talking to people that you sound like. Let me explain this, right? I try, you've heard this saying, I can't remember who said it, but you are a representation of the 5 people you hang out with, right? If the 5 people you hang out with are not at the level of communication and understanding of where you're having bigger conversations, that's not to say that we need to eliminate our friends and all that sort of stuff, but it means where your mindset is. It's where your head's at. The conversation. So I have, like I said, yesterday I had a conversation with a guy. We're talking about a guy that's generating $1.8 million out of one client per year, right? $500,000 in the last couple of $150,000 in the last 2 months, right? Different conversations, right? There are companies out there that are spending millions of dollars. In fact, there are e-commerce websites that will spend more than $2 to $3 million a month on Facebook ads. Imagine managing that account, right? $2 to $3 million a month on Facebook ads. Bookings.com on AdWords spent $2.5 billion. They are the largest AdWords account. In fact, they're not the largest AdWords account anymore because nobody's traveling, right? But Bookings.com last year spent $2.5 billion on AdWords last year, right? And they outsource to an agency, right? They have an in-house team, but they also work with an outsourced agency. In fact, they work with several outsourced agencies to manage that $2.5 billion ad budget in the marketplace. So where you're always going to be ending up talking to the people that you sound like, right? So if you're not having bigger conversations, if you're not listening in on bigger conversations, if you're not learning to have bigger conversations, then you're going to be talking at the market of where you place yourself at, right? I want to be the dumbest person in the smartest room of people. I want to be the dumbest person in the smartest room because I'm going to absorb and ask and observe, right, at a completely different level. I'm going to learn to communicate and have conversations at a completely different level. I want to be uncomfortable as much as I can because the more I'm uncomfortable in that room, the more I'm going to learn, the more I'm going to step up my game, right? So mindset plays a big part in your approach and your opportunity. 80% of this game of working with bigger clients is between the two ears here. It is gray matter, right? 80% of what you do is what you allow to go in and out of this space, okay? So 80% mechanics, 20% magic. I'm going to explain the 80% mechanics. This is where you make the big money, and 20% of the magic, and this is what's going to help you make big money, right? 80% is where you're going to make the money. 20% is what's going to help you make the big money, right? It's going to help you. So let's talk about the mechanics, the 80% of mechanics, right? So we need to understand the problem. We need to understand the problem so well. If we were to articulate the problem to a client, the client will say to you, you couldn't have said it, I could not have said it better myself. You need to intimately understand the key issues or areas of the problems that you solve at a level so the client says, you know what, it's like you're inside my head. That's exactly what we need to fix. That's number one. So if you understand what's going on in a way that the client is speaking, right, then you're going to have a much better chance of generating the outcome you're looking for. You need to know that you can solve the problem, right? If you understand what the big problem is, you need to know that you can solve the problem, right? It stands to reason. It's great knowing, but how are we going to fix it, right? If you can't fix a problem, like if you can't sit there and manage, so for example, a dear friend of mine, Molly Pittman, if anybody knows who Molly Pittman is, she used to be the VP of marketing for Digital Marketer. She now works with Everest Firestone at Smart Marketer. She's probably one of the best Facebook ad educators in the world. Right, so she said something really interesting on a stage a little while ago when we hung out together at a conference, and she said this. I couldn't believe that she said this on stage. She's working with an agency that manages about $160 million in Facebook ad spend. $160 million in Facebook ad spend, right? That's some serious ad spend. But here's what she said: 80% of the campaigns we run fail. 80% of that money that we spend out the window. It's that 20%, the 80-20 rule, it's that 20%, what's left over of our budget is what makes the billions of dollars in sales, right? She says 80% of the time, the first runs of ads we run fail dismally. This is one of the best Facebook advertising people on the planet is saying that to you, right? Right. So understand that if you know how to solve the problem, right, you're going to get a much bigger opportunity to engage a client who's going to invest in that. So you have to know. If you don't know, right, then you're going to have a problem, right? Nobody's going to buy because you're not talking the language of actually saying, hey, this is how we're going to fix this, right? The bigger the problem, the more they want to get it fixed. The bigger the problem this is, the more that they think about this problem and the more money they try spending on the problem to solve the problem, the quicker they want to get it fixed, the faster and the more they want to get it fixed. So understand that if it's a big, soaring, gaping wound, right, from a sales point of view, I want to rip that wound open and make it bleed, right? I want to make them feel so uncomfortable about how they're not getting this fixed that they will do anything to get it fixed, right? I want to say, well, if we keep doing this, so I'll give a perfect example of this in just a moment after I go through these points, right? I'm going to show you how I opened the wound for a company, and when I turned around with the solution, they went, hey, no brainer, we've got to do this, right? Very, very simple. So, and by the way, the solution was a website. The solution was a website and an app that was attached to the website, right? So here's the thing, be relevant on how to move the needle for them, be relevant. They want to, so what companies, what owners or businesses of bigger businesses want, their problem is how do we move the needle? How do we increase our profitability and our margins? How do we decrease our margins? How do we save money? How do we make more money? How do we how do we actually make sure that we keep our investors happy? How do we make sure that we're actually seeing ourselves in a growth situation rather than a deficit situation? So they're thinking in their business about how do we move that needle. Anything that you provide as a service, if you can link what you do to the needle that they move, you've got a great sales opportunity. Anything that you can do, if you understand what needles that they need to move in the business, save bucket loads of money, make bucket loads of money, improve on their margins, right? Maximize their profitability, pivot and open up new product lines, marketing to new product lines. Wherever you can find yourself in a situation where you see what you do moving a needle from what they need, you are in the game, you're in the ballpark, right? And those are the conversations you want to have. So this part of 80% mechanics is just the functional idea that I know how to fix the problem, right? We know how to do this. That's the key, right? So how do you contribute? How to save money? How to make money? Better results? Open up new markets, etc. How do you move the needle? That's the 80% of mechanics. So I'm going to share with you, this is an example of what I'm talking about when you understand how big a problem is, right? And this happened purely by accident. So I put myself into a sales situation for a multi-six-figure deal purely by accident. And sometimes the best deals happen by accident. But just to give you a perspective. So I was actually visiting a friend of mine, right? And he worked for this company. So I was visiting a friend of mine, and my friend was sitting there you know, putting these folders together. And I'm thinking, why are you putting these folders together? What are you doing? So, oh, we've got a new strategy. We've got a vertical that we're working with right now. This vertical is going to be worth probably an extra $3 or $4 million in revenue for us a year. And so we're putting this thing together, and it was a manual. It was like a folder, right? And I said, so what are you going to do with the folder? So, well, we're going to put. I said, how many pages in this thing? He said, well, it's like 60 pages. Like, okay, 60 pages. And what do you do with the folder? I said, well, we deliver the folder to the customer, and this folder enables them to make it easy for them to engage our services. It gives them instant quote access. They have a pricing structure. Literally just have to pull it out. It gives them all the solutions, and then they can actually order our services. And I thought, cool. So when you say you got to hand these out, how many of these are you handing out? So, well, normally we hand out about, you know, depending on the company, there could be anywhere between 10 or 30 of these folders that we have to hand out to the companies, and there's about 100 or so of those that we're targeting. So we want to, you know, physically rock up, walk them through what this is, have to teach them all that time running around. I said, how long is it going to take you to get around 100 companies to deliver these folders, right? He says, well, it's going to take us probably about 3-4 months to get through that process. Okay, 3 to 4 months driving around, lots of time. So whilst you're doing that, you're not making sales, yeah? You're hoping that sales are going to come from this effort, but you're physically not making sales, or your team is not going to be making sales either. You're hoping that because you've got 3 months' time. Okay, great. How much the folder cost? He says, well, let's work it out, right? So the folder, these are really nice presentation folders. So the folder, and then the presentation slots for this folder, the tabbing, worked out about $60 per folder. Now, one place of business could have 20 people. That's $1,200 in folders, right? So 20 people, 6 times 2 6 12. Yeah, that's $1,200 in folders for one business. Do that 10, 15 times, right? That's going to end up in the tens of thousands of dollars in costs. The folders alone, I said, by the time you print out all these folders and get all these made up and put together, it's going to cost you freaking, you know, close to $80,000, $100,000 plus dollars to put all these folders out, right? Even if you get them printed, it's going to cost you money, right? Because you worked out it's costing you $60 to do this right now. And then you got all that time and effort. And I said, like, you know, let's work out your cost of salesperson. So we worked in the cost. And I said, with the fuel costs, with all the visiting things, we just did this on the spot. This is going to cost you about, working that, this is going to cost you about 50 grand a month, right? This is going to cost you $600,000 a year. Over the next 3 years, you're going to spend $1.8 million on this strategy, right? This is crazy, right? Doing this manually, building that relationship, doing that whole stuff. I hope you're going to get freaking, you know, $8-9 million back. And he hadn't thought it through. He hadn't realized that was a cost. I said, mate, we're going to sit down with your managing director, because this thing here is way, way too expensive. Right? There's a faster and a better way of doing this. Let's work out what the problem is. The problem is communication, the ability for access, right? Making it easy for people to access, and then being able to build a relationship on the premise that they're opening the door to engaging sales. So what if we could actually automate that entire process and save you 50 grand a month? What if we, right now, if you're spending 50 grand a month, right? Instead of spending 50 grand, what if we spent 10? What if you spent 20 grand, right? Save you 30 grand a month over this course of the year. We're going to save you $380,000 in cash, in change. What do you think of that idea? And he said, well, if we could do that, that would be freaking awesome. So got to meet the managing director. And I said, I explained the problem, walked through the problem. He said, well, this is a problem. And he's saying, yeah, shit, I didn't realize we were going to spend $600,000 on this thing, right? I said, yeah, but what if we only spent $100,000 on this thing instead of $600, or $200,000 on this thing instead of $600? That $380,000 cash is going out. The 38 grand that you save every month, that's money that's net profit cash out of your business. We just saved you 3x on net return by looking at a much more efficient way of delivering this. Now, to cut a long story short, he bought, right? Paid me $250,000 to solve that problem in the market, right? And that happened purely by accident, because I'm going to save $400,000 over the next 3 years. I'm going to save $1.2 million over the next 3 to 4 years, right? 1.2 million, yeah? So, and it's only going to cost me 250 grand. What do I want to do, right? I'm going to find that 250 grand as quickly as possible. So understand the breakdown, understanding the problem and how you can save money or make money. By the way, this whole strategy, the system made them a lot of money, right? I did not charge enough for the solution, right? Undercharged, undervalued, right? But that's how you get yourself into the big deal. So the 20% magic, this is what you need to be mindful of in the 20% magic. By the way, before I go into the magic, any questions about the mechanics? Any questions about the mechanics of sales? I told this story a time ago. I finally see the structure, your questioning matrix. Yeah, thanks for offering the red pill. Thanks, I appreciate it. Any questions about this? Happy to answer any questions if you've got questions about what I've just shared with you, about the 80% of the mechanics. Most of you have the mechanics. Most of you here have the mechanics to solve the problem. But right now you're undercharging for your machinations, right, in the problem. Yeah. So, all right. Nobody's asking. Cool. Let's keep going. All right. So, just so before I go into magic, just give me a 1 if this has been super helpful to you so far. Just type 1 on the keyboard if it's been helpful. If you've had some aha moments or, yeah, that's awesome. The only reason I'm asking the question is I just want to know that you're alive, right? That you're here with me as we're talking. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So, let's get into the magic. Now, this thing here, a lot of people don't realize that if you get this part right, it is probably what's going to make you the most sales or convert the most of your biggest deals in the market. So number 1, how you present yourself to the client or how you represent yourself to the client has a big impact on how the client receives the information from you. So I want to put you in a situation. I'm sitting in like Citibank's office, right? I'm in the chairman's boardroom, and I rock up like I am now in a t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers, and I'm there to talk with the Citibank chairman about how his company is going to spend $500,000 on one little ad campaign. Right now, he's sitting there going, "I've made the time with this person to be in this room," and he's distracted by the way I look. He's distracted by my casualness, my laxness, by a look. So whilst he's being distracted, he's not listening to my pitch for a $500,000 deal. So if I'm going to do a $500,000 deal to a bank, I'm going to look like the banker, right? I'm going to look like not a wanker, a banker with a B, not a W, right? I'm going to look like the banker, right? I want to be exactly like the person that I'm dealing with. If I'm dealing with the contractor market, right, and my contractors wear polo shirts, then I'm going to wear a polo shirt, right? I'm going to look like the people I serve. How I present myself is going to be a determining factor of the confidence that I build in them. I'm not going to rock into a contractor with a suit on. I'm going to rock into a contractor the way the contractor perceives themselves in the marketplace. If I'm working with a corporate company, then I'm going to look like how they look like in their boardrooms, in their meetings. If I'm dealing with a e-commerce company and they're all cash, then I'm just going to be smart cash, right? But it's a really silly thing that how you present yourself is going to determine in a big way how a client or a prospective client is going to listen to you, right? Second, the language that you use, right? How you talk to them. You want to be using their vernacular. When I talk to an accounting practice, or if I'm talking to a large consulting firm, I'm using implementation, strategic advantage. I'm looking at structure, or I'm using their words in the conversation, right? I'm speaking their language so that I know that they know that I understand their language. You know, if I was dealing with the hospitality industry, I'd be talking about things like PAX, right? PAX. PAX is a vernacular on the number of allocations for occupancy in their hotels, right? 12 packs, 20 packs, the number of packs, right? PAX stands for passengers. Hotels talk about people in the space of like, I'm talking big hotels, right? So if I was talking to the Hyatt group, I'd be talking about PAXs, right? I wouldn't be talking about customers, right? Because I would use their language. So one thing that you want to be mindful of is you want to use their language. You want to think about the vernacular that they use. If I'm talking to Kairos, I need to talk about things at Kairos that matter to Kairos. If I'm talking to PTs, I need to talk about things that matter to PTs. Your language is a real key factor to somebody connecting and engaging with you, right? Image that you portray. Now, what I mean by the image that you portray, right? Are you professional? Have you been professional in the way that you approached and engaged this person? Has what they've seen of you represented who you are in a professional fashion that instills some level of confidence in you? Very important, right? What you look online, your digital footprint. If you are posting crazy pictures on Instagram, right? And you're out there wanting to close multi-six-figure deals, and somebody sees your Instagram feed and you like a certain activity that they may find questionable, right? Then it's going to count against you. Right? Social media, your presence on the social media, what you say and what you do on social media is remembered forever. And all people have to see is one thing that gives them an irk, and you are out. So you need to be mindful from a business point of view, how you are viewed in the market from a digital footprint. Are your profiles consistent with what your message is? Is your branding consistent across your digital footprint? Does your website tell people what you do? Does your website show people how you help them? Does your website make it easy for these people to contact you? Does your website educate people as to your methodology or your ideas? Does your content or information that you put out there explain what you do to how to help people out in the marketplace, right? It's not very hard to build authority, to set yourself up as an authority in the marketplace, right? It's not very difficult to build a professional presence online. There's this cool website, it's called Noem, K-N-O-E-W-M, Noem, right? Noem.com. If you go to Noem.com, for I think like $79, what you can do is you can create a uniformed presence on all your social media platforms. So for I think 25 different platforms, it'll actually give you have your branding, you'll have the images, you'll have the descriptions, you'll have the links, everything will be uniform. So all of a sudden, for the cost of $60 or $70, you can have for an SEO point of view, it's huge. But for that a little amount of money, you can actually create a very brandable presence online. Using a digital footprint tool like Noem, right? So very cool. Your authority, right? How do they view you? How do they see you with your authority, right? What have you put out there that has resonated or connected with the audience and with the marketplace, right? Very important. Your connections, who you're connected to. This is where LinkedIn is super powerful. I'm going to share with you, if you ever want to get into big deals, look at your LinkedIn connections, those people you've got relationships with, and you see that they've got a connection with somebody else. You can ask them to connect you with that person or introduce you to that person. Super, super powerful, right? Connections. Just drink a little bit of tea, lubricating the throat here, right? So you have to believe that you belong in the room. That's the other thing. If you don't believe that you belong in the room, then you're not going to be in the room. If you don't believe that you belong in the chairman's room of Citibank, then you are not going to be there, right? I did not believe I belonged in the room. In fact, the way I got into Citibank chairman's office was through a friend. And how I got there was because my friend was the college roommate of the chairman of Citibank. I was fortunate enough to have a 1-hour meeting with the chairman of Citibank last year in their boardroom in New York City, right? Because a friend was a roommate and he lined that meeting up for me. I thought that was pretty cool. Right? I did go there for a specific reason, and yes, I should have been in that room, right? But you need to believe that you belong in the market that you play with. You need to believe that you belong with companies that are offering bigger deals, right? They are hiring, by the way, in our world, just from an opportunity point of view, in our world, lots of companies are going to hire independent individual consultants for components of their marketing. They don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. They want a specialist for AdWords, a specialist for Facebook, a specialist for their website and their content and their social media, a specialist for Instagram. They're going to actually disseminate for specialists. Specialization is going to be very popular out there in the market because they're looking to piece puzzles together. They're not looking for the generalist. Right? That's why a lot of big agencies are shifting their business model to become specialized in a key factor of their marketing. In fact, a lot of big agencies are spending more time delivering strategy than they are doing ads and campaigns, right? They're actually charging much bigger dollars for strategy than they are for the dollars that they get for their marketing campaigns, right? So you have to believe that you belong in the room, because if you don't believe that you belong in the room, then you're not going to get the deals. It's pretty simple, right? Pretty basic. So it's all about relationships, right? This is the thing that you have to understand at a bigger playing field. It's all about who you know. So for example, I had a company years ago that specialized in the tendering market. We used to develop tenders. We had lawyers, we had marketers, we had graphic designers, and we would create amazing presentations. The conversion rate to win was 95% on the table. Now, what a tender is a very expensive RFP. So for example, a government body like the government in Florida would have gone out to tender to an agency to do that $77 million website. But it wouldn't have gone to one. It would have gone to open that out to say, hey, let's put this out to tender, see who can come back to us with the biggest deal. So our deal was we used to work with companies to win those types of big deals, right? So our representation, our presentation will have a 95% win rate to the table. And we had some of the biggest companies that we were working with in the Southern Hemisphere, right? And there was one company we worked with that we generated $450 million worth of contracts over a 6-month period using our methodology in the market. This was a great business, by the way. And so understand that at that level, it was really about who we knew. So what we did was we tried to connect with people who connected with other people. So we asked through our relationships, how do we introduce ourselves to the boardrooms of these $100 million companies who are looking at this sort of type of marketing, this tendering type of marketing, right? So the connections that you make, the relationship you make are going to have the impact on or create the opportunities and impact that you're looking to do. And that's the thing. A lot of people, it's very difficult to build a relationship while you're sitting on a laptop in a kitchen emailing people, right? That's a really, really difficult thing to do. When we are opening up and unlocking and we're allowed to go out and about, you want to be connecting with people. You want big deals. People want to eyeball you. People want to, right now, it'll be people want to be elbowing or forearming you rather than shaking your hand, or do like the Japanese do and actually bow in respect, right? But people are going to do more of that, right? If you want to do big deals, you want to connect with people who are in connections with other people in big deals. The easiest place to do that is through associations. You want to collect. Another thing, the easiest place to do that is in charities. Go and pick. Go to a charity, right? Go and pick a charity. Pick a very public one. One that has a lot of marketing and branding out in the marketplace, and then buy a ticket to their next event. Buy a ticket to their next event. What's going to happen is you're going to be placed on a table. You're going to be placed on a table with people who are going to donate. Some of them donating tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars to charities. And you're going to be dealing with decision makers in an informal environment of a charity. And this is a great way to connect with decision makers, because that way you are in a room with your peers or with peers who are there for a common cause. And what easier way to open up a conversation than be there for a common cause with people. So if you want to work with big clients, go and hang out with some charities. Right? Another one is associations. Become a member of an association that has your type of clients in the marketplace. One of the associations that I got into, and I've talked about this a few times, but I got into an association called the Australian Institute of Company Directors. Now, the Australian Institute of Company Directors represents billions and billions of dollars worth of GDP every year for all the companies that it represents in the marketplace. And I joined this association. One of the things of joining association, this is an association that is educating company directors on compliance on being a professional director. Now, I never did the courses. I just wanted to join the group because I wanted to hop into the lunches, because as a member, you get to go to these lunches, and these lunches, you're sitting down with chairmen of boards of major corporations around the country. So you could be sitting down you could be sitting down next to Rupert Murdoch, right? The chairman of Fox, right? You could be sitting down with a major charitable organization. You could be sitting down with the chairman of somebody who's been on multiple boards in industries. And so you get to talk to people at a completely different level, right? But it really does boil down to who you know. And I can ask, and one of the fastest ways to get engaged with people in the marketplace is go and look at the people you're connected to and say, do you know somebody who's at this level that you can introduce me to? And start adding value to those relationships. One of the reasons why I travel the world so much over the last 5 years is because I want to meet the people I work with personally, but I also want to connect with people that I also want to learn from, and also perhaps look at broadening my opportunities of being in rooms that I'm really uncomfortable being in, because it's those uncomfortable rooms that have actually forced and engaged and shown me how to grow at an exponential rate in the market. If it wasn't for those uncomfortable rooms, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you today. Right. So understand that this is critical to your opportunity in the market, is to develop those types of relationships. So with that, you need to cultivate relationship decision makers, the checkbook writers, right? If you want to, don't build relationships with people who can't write checks. Right. So this is a budgetary consideration thing. If you're dealing with marketing directors of bigger companies, you want to find out what their budget limit is that they can sign off on without having to talk to somebody else further up the chain. Right? Because if you don't find out, then you could be talking to the wrong person and building a relationship with the wrong person that doesn't turn into anything. I don't know if anybody's experienced that, right? We've got a few people who chatting here. Let's have a look at the chats. Yes, Trevor, relationships are the new currency. got to take off. Look forward to watching the end on a replay in the members area. Thank you very much, Abe. Good to see you here. Do you reckon Zoom calls or phone only? I like Zoom. Right, Mark, I prefer to be on a Zoom because on a Zoom, we are still live on a Zoom. I'm talking to you live right now. I can look you if we open up all the cameras here. I can look you in the eye, and you can look me in the eye. I can see your expressions. I can see your tone. I can capture all of that by visually seeing you. I want to eyeball you. You want to eyeball your clients. Because if you're eyeballing them, you're building a much better rapport and a better connection, right? The other thing is if you're eyeballing your clients, make sure you don't have mega death posters in the background. Make sure that you're not wearing your baseball cap backwards. Make sure you're wearing a clean t-shirt when you do this, or a clean shirt when you have those conversations. Represent yourself professionally. Zoom has opened up a whole new world of what people's homes looks like, right? What you want to do is, if you're ever going to be online on Zoom, make sure you have a professional, make sure your background, wherever your background is something that is professional. I'm using, you can see behind me here, I'm just using poster boards. My brand is all over that board. This is great for podcasting and all that sort of stuff. But if you're on Zoom call, get a green screen and you can make a nice background, have a nice library behind you or a nice setting. Don't put ocean pics and stuff like that. Just don't do that. That's really, really cheesy. But to answer that question, Mark, eyeballing somebody directly in the eyes, super, super, super important, making sure that you go eyeball to eyeball. Yeah. So any other questions? Because we have come to the end of our presentation. Any other questions? Any other questions? We've got another one person here. Brian, really good outsourcers can bring credibility and results because they've worked with much bigger clients. Absolutely, Brian. Absolutely. Some of the resource partners we work with very big companies on very big accounts. And they have a lot of skill and a lot of capability, and they're in accounts every single day. So they'll know more than what I do. If I would never run an AdWord account because I wouldn't, not that I just wouldn't know. Every time I've started an agency, I've always outsourced everything. Because you just leverage the opportunity. It's the fastest way to grow your agency is to outsource. Oh, by the way, when I go up, so these are just banners. I just got the banners. They cost me $200. I got them printed at Staples. The version of Staples in Australia is Officeworks. So they're $100 each. And they just put the image in their cloth. I do have green screens, that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's just convenient. And it just makes you look a little bit more professional when you do that. So like I said, don't have mega death posters, don't have distractions. Make sure you've got some boundaries when you're using Zoom. But I would prefer Zoom. And the other thing with Zoom is you can record every phone call. If you're recording the phone calls, you can actually see what's going on in the conversation, and you can make adjustments to improve the types of conversations you have. Sahil, thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to getting started with you as well. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer your questions here. We've kind of come to a little over the hour. I hope this has been really helpful. I'd love to know what takeaways you've had from here. No, it's not a poster board. It's material. It's cloth. Yeah, you can do it online. You need to, on Zoom, you can do backgrounds, but if you're going to do a background on Zoom, you need a neutral wall, or white wall, or at least a chroma key thing in the background if you do neutral background. So hopefully that answers all the background questions. Brian says, don't have someone flush the toilet while you're on a call. Absolutely. You want to be mindful of the noises and the sounds around you when you're on Zoom. Absolutely. Yes. If you haven't already, go to consultingunleashed.com/go, jump into our Facebook group, jump into our YouTube channel. I will be uploading this into that channel today. I hope this has been useful to you. Definitely putting myself at their level, knowing that their problems, knowing how to fix them, and their confidence, absolutely. Besides mindset, you recommend scaling up to larger clients or just go for them straight away? Howard, there's nothing stopping you from going to a bigger client. It takes me as much time to sell a big client as it does to sell a small client. One thing I will say, and this is a big thing, takeaway, be able to articulate your value proposition based on ROI. Absolutely, Mark. Absolutely. Very powerful. I'm going to teach you that when you're in Agency Unleashed. I'm going to show you how to use the numbers to close the deals. But here's the thing, Howard, to answer your question, there's nothing stopping you from going out and getting a big client now. right? If you have the confidence to fulfill and deliver a result, and you understand what they need fixed, and they're in a position where they say, hey, this is bad enough for us to do something about it, then you can go and sell that client today. There's nothing stopping you from doing that, in terms of your relationship. So at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you are focused on helping the client with their outcomes. And at the end of the day, say, hey, well, if do you want me to help you? Make that offer, right? You can do all this yourself, but probably the best thing you do is we can help you with our team, right? And our team can get this thing up and running and get started straight away. Mark is asking me, what paperwork do you recommend before the 60-day challenge? You don't need any paperwork, mate. Day one, we are going to go for it. On day one, we're going to go for clients. So, but just turn up and just be there. It'll be great. It should be in there, Mark. And the training from yesterday is going up there today. So all the videos are in the Agency Unleashed portal. A new video coming in from yesterday's training is going to be in there. And the other trainings are going to be in there as well. The other training is going to be in the portal. Sorry, in the Agency Unleashed portal, there will be other videos popping in there. The portal is unimportant right now. The turning up to the meeting on Monday is the important thing. But all of that will be populated into that area. With that, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for asking me these questions. I hope this has been useful. If you haven't already, go to consultingunleashed.com/go. Make sure you turn the notifications on, because I am doing these on a regular basis. And make sure you turn the notifications on the YouTube channel, because we are uploading there so you don't miss any of these replays. But with that, I want to thank you for being here. Go and close some big deals. That's the deal. And right now, in the environment we're in, we have a great opportunity to go and get much bigger clients, because let me tell you, the big clients are looking at their budgets right now, and they're looking at what they want to spend their money on, because they know that this is an opportune time to take advantage of the market. Remember, we're coming out of lockdown, we're coming into business, lots of businesses are opening back up. A lot of big businesses are going to see that there's a gap in the market because so many businesses have closed. Those are the businesses right now who have the money to spend with you at a much higher level. So thanks, Mark, appreciate. Okay, sorry, Mark, shoot me an email, I'll answer your question. So with that, I want to thank you for being here. Look forward to seeing you. Those who are joining me in Agency Unleashed, congratulations. Really stoked about what we're going to be doing over the coming months to go and get clients. But with that, I will see you on Monday for this particular call. We're going to be here on Monday. I'm taking the weekend off. So it is Saturday. It'll be Saturday tomorrow where I am. I know it's Friday where you are. But from Sunday to Thursday, we do these clarity and focus sessions to try and help as many people as possible. And for all of those people who join the Agency Unleashed program, I will be seeing you on Monday at 2 p.m. PST, which will be 7 a.m. my time on my Monday morning. So that'll be, sorry, on my Tuesday, but it'll be your Monday. And so we are going to rock and roll and get into our client opportunities. So thank you for those who've joined that program. I look forward to seeing you there. And for the rest of you, go and apply some of this stuff. Go and try. Go and make an offer. Go and connect with a bigger player and see and ask what their problems are in the marketplace. And maybe you can offer to help them. And if you're offering to help them, you're going to put yourself into a fantastic cash position. So with that, thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you on other sessions. Take care, everybody.